Kingdom responsibility then includes the ability to respond as a child in the kingdom of God, as if you are one of the king's sons or daughters. It's the ability to respond the way the king would. Now, I want to start in the old. I want to go to the new. Let's go to Deuteronomy, and I want to show you a text that I think off the bat looks completely like I lost my mind. Why are we using this text? It has nothing to do with the kingdom. And I wondered the same thing, except I've been reading through the Torah, and I got here right near the end of Deuteronomy, and I captured something in a Hebrew definition that jumped off the page at me, and I thought, this seems to be the best description of why the law exists that I have found within the law. It's not just to keep you from sinning, it's not just to get you to live right. I've been telling you this over and over for months in both the Tuesdays and in the monthlies, that the heartbeat of God was to take care of people. It was to take care of the widow and the stranger. It was to take care of the poor and the fatherless. It was to take care of the marginalized and the forgotten. God never wanted to leave them behind. It was never us versus them with God. It was never us versus them. We're powerful and they're weak, and we're going to show them who's boss. For God, it was always let the powerful reach down and help the weak. Take care of those that can't take care of themselves. And that's the heartbeat, even of the law. And that's hard to find sometimes when you read the law, because it just looks like rules and regulations. But discover this with me in the first 3 verses of Deuteronomy 22. You shall not see your brother's ox or his sheep going astray and hide yourself from them. You shall certainly bring them back to your brother. And if your brother's not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it to your own house, and it shall remain with you until your brother seeks it, and then you shall restore it to him. This is just miscellaneous laws. The end of 21 all the way through Deuteronomy 22, miscellaneous laws, just all kinds of stuff. It's almost like Moses gets to the end and just goes, we haven't talked about that, we haven't talked about that, we haven't talked about that. What if this happens? What if that happens? Some of them seem completely unrelated. 3, do the same thing with his donkey, and so shall you do with his garment. With any lost thing of your brother's which he has lost and you have found, you shall do likewise. Now look at this last phrase. You must not hide yourself. And that's in the English, but when you get closer to the Hebrew, you may not avoid responsibility. And when I dug down, peeled that onion and found that's the core of the Hebrew, you may not avoid responsibility, it really hit me, it struck me that what God's heart in the law was not restrictions and I don't want you doing this. It was, you can't avoid the reality that you are responsible on the earth to take care of stuff. This is just tangible stuff, like your neighbor's property and his coat and his stuff. But this comes on the heels of long chapters of sexual laws and purity laws, of property laws. And why? Because you can't avoid the responsibility of taking care of your family. You can't avoid the responsibility of loving your neighbor. You can't avoid the responsibility of treating people with respect. You're not able to hide. God said you can't hide. You got to man up, so to speak. You have to take responsibility for where your feet stand. And I don't think that that's just an aside in the law. I think that's the underpinning of the entire structure, because when you get to Jesus, he's over the top concerned with the guy next to him and the person that's being rejected and the person being pushed out. Why is he so over the top concerned with the people no one else is concerned with? Because he can't avoid responsibility. He's found lost people. What do you do with the lost garment? What do you do with the lost donkey? What do you do with your lost neighbor's property? You can't hide. You got to give it back. You got to go search and find it. And Jesus comes along and tells lost coin stories, lost sheep stories, lost kids stories. He goes and finds a woman at a well. He addresses the adulterous woman. He goes to Zacchaeus' house and says, I come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Lost men, lost women, lost objects. Why is he so obsessed with talking about stuff that's lost? Because he can't avoid the responsibility of what it means to be a son of the king. He's a prince on the earth. And because of that, the responsibility falls on Jesus. So part of the kingdom understanding is that the responsibility of the king falls on the sons and the daughters. And that's not responsibility to get me to heaven. I'm already in the kingdom. I'm already a son. I'm already a daughter. If I abdicate my responsibility, I don't become less of a son. I just become less useful as a son. I'm not less of one of the sons or daughters of God because I choose to slop hogs. I'm just wasting time slopping hogs. Time I could be at Dad's house. I could be in the field. I could be with my brother. I could be with my parents. I could be doing something with my inheritance. But I'm not. I'm feeding pigs and I'm wasting it on riotous living. And I'm not getting that back. But I'm not Dad's kid. Forgive the grammar. I am who I was when I left. But I have an awareness. That's the beauty of that prodigal son story. I have an awareness in the pig pen where he goes, the text says he came to himself. What's that mean? Sloppy pig feeder realized he's a prince and went, oh, look at this. I'm going to go home. Now, he's still got slave mentality. I'm going to go home and be a servant. Dad gets rid of that immediately. No, you're not coming in here to serve me. You're my son. There's a lot of work the father's got to do when we come back. There's a lot of work the church needs to do when we come back, is wash us off. But we have to wake up in that pig pen and go, you know what? I have a kingdom responsibility. I'm one of Dad's kids. What am I doing? So Jesus' ministry is obsessed with the lost. And when I say the lost, we always think sinners, people going to hell, got to go get lost saved. But for Jesus, he called the lost sheep of the house of Israel lost. He called people that had been pushed aside as lost. People who didn't know who they were as sons of Abraham as lost. I see lost people in the church. I'll use a phrase that's going to sound weird, but I see lost Christians every time I go into a church. I mean, there are people who've accepted Christ, they got baptized, they joined the church. They own a Bible, they go to church, they sing songs, they put money in the offering. They're Christians. What's your faith? Christian. They're lost. They don't know their dad's kid. They're not living the kingdom life. I don't mean they're not walking in perfect bliss and favor. That's not the kingdom. Kingdom's full of valleys and dragons and all the other junk that comes with everything. But they don't know they're a kid. They don't know they're one of his kids. They think they're a slave on their way to heaven. They hope they get there. Fingers crossed. They go, man, you're not even living yet, are you? You're still lost. You're a Christian, but you're lost because your dad's kid slopping hogs or your dad's kid plowing the back 40 like the elder brother, and you won't go in and celebrate being one of dad's kids. In both cases, we're talking about lost people. So part of that kingdom responsibility, and I know this is an old, obscure little passage, but to me that jumped off the page. And it was like God put neon lights on it for me that went, this is the heart of what I'm trying to do with the law, is to get my people to bear the responsibility that's theirs. That's I slow down here and I'll say this again. That's part of the definition of Jesus is take up your cross and follow me. Okay? It doesn't mean die a little bit every day. It means pick up the heaviest thing you can and carry it as far as you can. Because if you don't, that's one more day it doesn't get carried 1 more inch. And sometimes you are supposed to carry a heavy load. You can't just put it off for the future. Well, our kids will take care of that, or the neighbor will take care of that, or my spouse will take care of that. Some things you must pick up and carry. Even if you carry it 1 inch, you carried it 1 inch farther than it was the day before. That's part of what Jesus is saying to his disciples. Take up your cross, follow me. Why? Watch what I do. I pick up the heaviest load I can carry and I carry it. That's what my disciples do. So it's not about bearing everyone else's burdens all the time, but it's finding the areas where you can't hide. That's part of the kingdom. You can't hide.